From Oscar Steakhouse, inside the Plaza Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, you're on the corner of Main Street. Welcome to the only podcast produced by and recorded in the Las Vegas Hotel Casino. From gaming to dining to entertainment to sports to Vegas history, this is the place to be for the inside scoop, because this is the place to be downtown. Now, here's Plaza CEO Jonathan Jossel.
And we're back. It's good to be back. Hey, Gary, nice to have you.
How are you?
Good to see you doing good.
Yeah, good.
We got our lovely guest with us right away.
I'm not called lovely very often, but I'll take it. Thank you.
Today we are joined by the Clark County Commissioner, Michael Naft. Welcome to On the Corner of Main Street.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here and good to have Clark County represented on the podcast.
Yeah, we're going to ask you a lot of questions about that, but welcome to downtown Las Vegas. Welcome to Oscars. Have you dined with us before?
I have. It's good to be back.
It's very good to have you. We have our new patio behind us here that we're going to have to show you around and all the new fun stuff we're doing here. But I had a very fun weekend. I went to the opening of the Sphere on Friday night. Were you there?
I was there.
You were there Friday or Saturday?
I was there Friday and Sunday.
Oh, you went to the postcards on Sunday. I heard that's great for kids.
It was fun to see the difference in how they're using that venue and same space utilized so differently. It's incredible.
Okay. Yeah, it is. What was your thoughts on Friday night on the show?
Well, I thought U2 was spectacular, but it's hard. It's so hard. It must be hard as an artist to compete with that venue because it was almost like seeing two shows. You had the performance and then you had the performance of the space, which was just unbelievable.
So, firstly, nothing's cooler than you two pulling up on a flatbed truck in front of your hotel and casino and performing there, which is what happened here at the Plaza 2 weeks prior.
Well, that's what got the buzz going. That's what got
everyone excited about you too. But I agree with you. Although I did think they did it pretty cleverly in the sense of the way they turned off the screen. I didn't turn it off, but they used it in a way just to amplify the performance. So I agree with you. That first 15 minutes where the screen's going nuts and it looks like it's closing on you and the numbers. At one point, someone was like, I got dizzy from the thing. Yeah. But it's unbelievable. And then they kind of weaned off it because I agree, you would not focus on the act at all if that screen was moving like that the whole time.
That's right. I think 2 hours of that would have been too much, but you're right. They leveled it off perfectly. They gave people time to catch their break, to enjoy the actual music they were there for, and then brought it all back at the end.
At the end, the finale was insane. The way they show Vegas.
When that came up, I felt like I was outside. I don't know if it was in collaboration with the air that was blowing or what was going on, but it felt so realistic. You kind of had this experience that you were outside, standing, looking at that incredible view.
It was insane. And then they showed up going back over time in the desert. In fact, probably that was my favorite scene when those two helicopters flew over and it looked like they were helicopters from outside, and then they shone a spotlight and suddenly you two are in the spotlight. It's brilliant. The counter argument, some people are like, look, if you spend that kind of money and you basically
over $2 billion?
You're right. You spend over $2 million and you're saying you're redefining Vegas entertainment. You got to move the needle. And so some would argue that that's basically at a minimum what they should have done. But it's still spectacular. And I do think that just from my own interactions, people from all over the world are going to see this thing and be like, I got to come to this. I got to see this thing.
I agree. And I wouldn't understate the video was so captivating, but the audio too. When do you have a venue like that with 18,000 people experiencing it with you, where you also you feel like you're in a small venue? That I think was kind of the star of the show. I'm looking,
like you go see a concert at T-Mobile, it's kind of hard. Like if you're not, even at the good seats, the little projector screens just do nothing for that room, and the audio is not great. Whereas you think about what this is going to be like, and that's just U2. I mean, imagine some of the other acts are probably going to be able to book in there. U2's huge, but I'm not knocking U2 fans. Some of their music's a little slower and doesn't have the same... Sure. Like the energy at the end of that show was what I expected the whole way through.
That's right.
And I think that's kind of what we're going to see there. But it's spectacular. And if you get the chance to go see it, go see it.
And anybody that goes in there, it's not going to be like you're going to have an artist come in and do one show and then leave and go on the rest of their tour. No. It's going to be more of a residency and built in.
Yeah, because the cost of building those sets, it's insane. I mean, I'm just waiting to see, I guess, when they announce anyone else, who else is going to be in there.
Yeah, well, and all original content, both the films and the performances.
So. And the postcard show you went to was cool? It was good to see?
It was neat to see the space in a different element. And similarly, the way the show starts, it's a smaller screen, more like a rectangular movie screen. And then during the film, as it goes on, it fills up the entire space. So similarly to U2, it doesn't overtake you.
And for anyone that doesn't know what it is, like what are they? What is this? What is Postcards from Earth? It's a show that's playing through
Planet Earth. I mean, it basically is how I would describe it.
It's a video of Planet Earth by Darren Aronofsky. Is
that's right, and it kind of sort of walks you through the experience of climate change.
Oh wow. Yeah. Okay, but were you there on Friday in your capacity as a county commissioner, or were you there as a public spectator?
County commissioner.
Okay, so you were a part of bringing the sphere.
Yeah, well, it's in unincorporated Clark County, so an important distinction. But it's been a project that we've been working on. Both, when I say we, I mean the county has been working on for a long time. It's in my colleague's district, Commissioner Sagerblum. So working through the development process of that, because it is such a unique building, a unique asset to the community, has been a long time coming, and nice to see. Over time and over budget, but nice to see it built with private funds entirely.
That's right. It was private funds entirely.
So, Michael, just to kind of get people up to speed and probably enlighten me a little bit as well, what exactly does the Clark County Commissioner do?
Great question.
So let's
start with what the county
does.
Yeah,
are you asking what does the commission do, or what is the Clark County Commission?
I guess let's start with what is the Clark County Commission?
So we are your local and your regional government. So for most people who live in Southern Nevada, that's about 1 million of the 2.4 million people who live here. More people live in unincorporated Clark County than any other local jurisdiction. So for those individuals, we do all of their local services, so think police, fire, parks and recreation, business licensing, and then for the other 1.4 million people, give or take, we do your regional services. So if you live in an incorporated city, that's Henderson, North Las Vegas, the city of Las Vegas, they do your local services. And we still perform all of those regional services, which are things like social service, human services. So think most of the nonprofits, the big nonprofits and the small nonprofits in town are funded through elements of Clark County government. You think about water and sewer. We serve as the Las Vegas Valley Water District. We own and operate UMC, so we're the board of trustees of the state's largest, busiest public hospital, only public hospital. And we own and operate 5 airports, including Harry Reid International Airport, Henderson Executive, North Las Vegas. Those are all Clark County Department of Aviation assets.
Oh, wow.
So we do all of these. We really act like the city for anybody who doesn't live in a city. So those 1 million people. And even though a lot of people in Southern Nevada, their postal address says Las Vegas,
sure,
they don't live in the city of Las Vegas, right? Think the entire Las Vegas Strip, right? Once you get past Sahara, that is all unincorporated Clark County. So for them, we do all of their ordinances, our county ordinances, all of their local government needs, police, fire. So that's kind of a taste of what we do, and what makes it such an interesting job.
And when was it started? When did the commission begin? Do you know?
Well, when the incorporation of Clark County, you have had over time different geographic areas in town that have been annexed by cities over the years. So even currently, right, the city of Henderson annexes parts of my district, part of the unincorporated portion of my district. So in the 5 years I've been there have been properties that I've done the entitlements on or the zoning for, and you look back now and they're now city of Henderson jurisdiction. So that kind of continues to evolve over time, and that geography changes.
And where does Paradise fit into this?
So Paradise is one of 38 townships in Southern Nevada. So in my district, I represent portions of Enterprise, Paradise, Spring Valley, Laughlin, and Searchlight. Those are the unincorporated townships in the district. And those, the way the governance works is each of those townships have a volunteer advisory town board. So we appoint citizens who know their township well, who live in the neighborhoods in their community and know firsthand the needs and experiences, and they meet on periodic basis. Depending on where they live, Enterprise meets regularly, some might meet quarterly, and they deal with in areas that are really developing quickly. They deal with development issues. In areas like Searchlight, they deal with more updates from police and parks and recreation and those types of things. And then you have Planning Commission on the zoning side, so any land use applications go through that body, and then the County Commission.
And some people say that the commission is the most important organization based in the state of Nevada. I assume you'd agree with that.
Well, I think the work we do is awfully important.
But it's the most powerful group in the state. Actually, that's what Wikipedia says. It's the most powerful group in the state.
That's probably someone at the county that wrote that.
Somebody, Tick put that in there?
Maybe so. It's because we touch so many different areas, and because unlike a legislative body where you might have to convince 62 other people to go along with you, at the Clark County Board of the way our governance works, you really need 4 to 3 others to go along with you, and you can really impact some change. And because of the size of our budget, because we also do the police department and do these major things like, hey, Formula One is in unincorporated Clark County. The Sphere is entirely in the county. And the entire economic engine for the whole state of Nevada is really in unincorporated Clark County.
The Culinary Union might take offense to your guys' tagline. It's the most powerful, influential group in the state, but
you said it, not me.
We'll let it slide. Well, I think it is that on I'm going to double check that right now, but it's important that I think people understand, again, we do this podcast to shed light on how the city works, and hopefully people look back on the history of Vegas and understand the differences, but we have a mayor, but the mayor has nothing to do with the Strip. The Strip is in unincorporated Clark County, and we have touched on that in previous episodes. But if you want to build on the Strip, you're coming in front of you guys.
That's right. We do all of the development land use applications that would happen on the Strip, or, like I said, in any of those other townships. That comes entirely through Clark County. So
the responsibilities and I guess the needs of those different counties got to be drastically different, right? I mean, Laughlin's needs are got to be completely different than Searchlight's versus Paradise. And
I think you hit on something really important. You look at my district, and I represent the 215 in Flamingo and the 15 in Flamingo and Searchlight and Laughlin. And you think of those 4 areas as an example. And you think of both everybody, the people who work around there, the people who live around there, the people that traverse there to get where they're going, all have different priorities and different things on their mind and different life experiences. And that's absolutely a big part of the job, is recognizing that and identifying what the needs are that are important to people in their backyard. Because at the end of the day, that's what we do. The services we provide touch every single one of us, whether you realize it or not. They touch every one of us in our lives every day, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody in this community uses public roads, whether you're walking, cycling, getting in a car and driving somewhere. Most people in this community use the 215 Beltway. That's a county-managed roadway system. So, whoever you are, you're impacted by the work that Clark County does.
But it does say the Clark County Commission is considered by many to be the most powerful governmental body in the state of Nevada.
Well, who am I to argue with Wikipedia?
Who are you to argue with Wikipedia? So you obviously Laughlin, because I had a brilliant idea for Laughlin that I wanted to do there.
I could use a brilliant idea in Laughlin.
It's been a couple of years since I did it. But, Pink Box that are donuts, so they just opened in Laughlin as well. Know. And apparently it's packed on the weekends, needs some help midweek.
They had like 2,000 people come to the opening.
It's unbelievable. Well, they are the best donuts, and they are a very great brand. And
they're now the only donut you can get in Laughlin.
Why? What, there's no Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' or any of them?
No.
Oh, wow. Well, that's good to know. So one is donuts, but I had another idea. There was a hotel that we were looking at, I can't say the name, but we wanted to buy it, and we wanted to turn Laughlin, and it's probably insane, but a little bit of research that I did do, into a fishing destination and make it a fishing so my friends own some lakes in England where you basically go camp there, eat fish, and gamble. And, well, not in England, but the gambling would be here in Laughlin. And you turn one of those hotels into a destination. You put in a Bass Pro shop, or there's the other one. Cabela's,
yeah.
Which I think they actually own that Bass Pro shop now.
Oh, they do?
I think Cabela's bought it. But anyway, you put in one of those massive retail centers. You do a beautiful hotel, casino, great F&B, and you give access to fishing. Then I think there's a few great lakes, and then there's the river right there as well. I don't know how good the fishing is in the river, but I know there's some lakes with some good fishing.
Yeah, Cottonwood Cove is just off of Searchlight. And there, I think to your point, there is a lot of opportunity there, right? Where it's right on the Colorado River. It's a smaller population, only about 7,000 people in the Laughlin side, but of course you're across the river from Bullhead City, about 35,000 people.
Yeah, this was about 6-7 years ago. There was a building we were trying to get, but never worked out.
Hey, there's still opportunity.
There's still ways to look, still things to look at there.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's the commission, Gary.
So exactly what does the commissioner do?
So
and then what
good
what
question.
exactly do you oversee? Because I know there's different districts and District A, District C.
Are there 5 of you? Or
There's 7. So we are districts. We're elected and run in districts, and we each represent a 1/7 slice of the county. So my district goes from Flamingo all the way south to the California-Arizona border, west as far as Durango, east as far as Pecos. But we all represent the interests of our district, but all 7 of us vote on every matter. So every matter of consequence, whether it be those regional services that we talked about, the social human services, whether it be the governance of the hospitals, the Board of Trustees, the Department of Aviation, and the 5 airports. And then we all serve on regional boards. So I serve on the Board of Directors of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, the LVCVA. We have a split responsibility over the Metropolitan Police Department with the City of Las Vegas. We share that police department. So there's it's called the Fiscal Affairs Committee that works with the sheriff to run the police department and approve the budget for that department. And then I serve on other committees. I chair the audit committee. I'm on the debt management committee. So there's all these
How do you have
regional
time
boards.
to sit on all these committees?
Well, that's the job. You got to.
And how do you have time to do a podcast when you should be? Have you done other podcasts?
Well, just today, I have done other podcasts. Not any with such a beautiful setting as this one. You got to consider putting this on TV. There's a lot to see here.
A lot of people have told me to put this on YouTube.
I bet they have.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet.
But so we serve in all these different capacities. So just today, I came from the county commission meeting. Today we meet on Tuesdays, and we held a Las Vegas Valley Water District meeting. So we sit in our capacity as board members of that organization. We approve items related to UMC, so we sit in that capacity of trustees, and then we approve a whole lot of items, just general governance related to the county.
And then this is an elected position.
It is. We're elected in 4-year terms.
Okay.
And do you have a term limit?
You could serve three 4-year terms.
So it's like a city council position.
It is.
Same thing. And who elects you? The people.
You're
of
elected
your
by
district?
your district.
And are they contentious elections in the sense of they get heated, or?
They can be. Hopefully you do your job well, and that's the best way to make sure you don't have a contentious election.
Was yours contested?
Contested, yes. I was initially appointed. I was appointed by Governor Sisolak to the seat that he held. In Nevada, when there's a vacancy on a county commission, the governor appoints a filler.
Okay.
So I was appointed to the last 2 years of Governor Sisolak's term, and then was elected to my first 4-year term that I'm halfway through right now.
And for anyone listening that wants to hear about Governor Sisolak or isn't familiar with him, I'm sure everyone is. He was on our episodes, one of our podcast episodes about episode 50, 60.
Right,
I have to go back
somewhere
in time
around
a
there.
bit. Yeah. But very insightful nonetheless. So you had a relationship with him prior, obviously.
That's right. I worked with him in prior capacities and knew him a long time, and worked with him and the county in my former job.
Which was?
I ran the district office for Congresswoman Dina Titus.
Okay, so you've been in politics prior as well. So
Public service.
Public service politics. You've had an experience with. You prefer public service to politics.
Well, I think it's more accurate.
Fair enough.
So while we were
there's politics in every industry.
That's a good point.
So what I want to know while we were doing kind of our research on you is how do you go from the UNLV performing arts or visual arts into politics? How does that?
You did a
public
deep
service.
dive.
Public service.
Public service.
Not politics. He likes public service.
Public service.
So I went to high school just a couple blocks from here at Las Vegas Academy. I like to say my experience there was extraordinary. I love that school. I don't know if you all are familiar with it. It's an incredible place. Still is. I'm still active there. I serve on their advisory board. But what I tell everybody is as important as finding out what you should do is finding out what you have no business doing. I had, sadly for me, no talent in the performing arts, though I once thought I did. But I learned so much there, and I love that school. And
sorry, go ahead.
No, it made me a believer in the magnet program overall, but particularly LVA.
Are you from Vegas? Are you born here?
So, I grew up here since first grade.
Where did you come from?
This is home. I'm originally from Toronto. I was born in Toronto. This was always kind of a destination for my parents. My dad grew up with an uncle who ran junkets to Las Vegas, to the old Aladdin. And so anytime there was an open seat on the plane, his uncle, when he was even a kid, would call him. He'd run down to the airport in Toronto, hop on the plane, and spend the weekend in Las Vegas. And
cool.
so this was always a special place for my family. And I went to Primm, Thorpe, Thurman White, and Las Vegas Academy, and then UNLV.
Wow. So you grew up here, you know the city.
This is home.
And you knew this is what you wanted to do.
Well, running
service.
for office was never an ambition of mine. Serving always was, and I am fortunate to be in a position where I get to do that and hopefully make the world a better place. I think there's a whole lot of ways that somebody could serve, particularly in a community like ours, which is continuing to emerge and redevelop itself and grow in, I think, really special and cool ways. But I'd always had a desire to do something that would hopefully improve the world around me.
And so it was, if my timing might be up, but you were 2021, you became on the Clark County Commission?
2019. I was elected in 21.
Oh, so you got appointed in 2019, but only that. Okay, so you were there for the crazy times of COVID when you guys were being...
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yes, well put.
Well, it was crazy for everyone, right? We all had our own
right.
craziness, whether for us it was trying to shut down the doors when we had no locks on the doors and, 24 hours to do the whole thing. But you guys had it really tough because you had to come out with the mandates, right?
We did.
And it was an unknown
A lot of the mandates were state-driven. A lot of the details and particulars were county-driven. And so we certainly were engaged in a lot of conversation around it, took a lot of votes around it. And it brought out a lot of good in people. It also brought out some of the worst in people.
Yeah, but I assume, you just said you came from a meeting. I assume the meetings aren't like what they were then, where people just yelling, and I remember seeing them on TV, everyone fighting, and it was...
Nothing quite as special as those days, but
You still get some contentious
just
things?
today we had quite a few people come out to express themselves.
So go on, so what's keeping you up at night?
Well, I think water is always the big issue, right? We have to figure out if we're going to continue to be responsible about having a community that grows in a responsible way, what exactly that means. So managing our precious resource is really important. I said we had a Las Vegas Valley Water District this morning, and there was a lot of conversation about equity and who feels the pinch the most, and making sure that everybody has some shared sacrifice as we face this challenge.
If you don't mind, we really have never talked much about the water issue in Las Vegas. So if you can, how bad is the water issue? I mean, everyone shows pictures of Lake Mead dropping, and okay, I get it, Lake Mead's dropping, but how bad is things otherwise? Like, how bad is that really?
Well, the taps are going to continue to run water. We're not in that situation, but we are in a federally recognized drought. We do have a crisis with some of our border states who really need to step out, and I would say follow the lead of the Southern Nevada Water Authority, which is frankly considered a worldwide leader on managing the drought and conservation efforts. We often get tagged with, if it's so bad, why are you allowing development to continue? Well, we don't want to stop progress, stop the economy, but we do need to make sure that everybody recognizes that we do it as much as possible in a way that is conscientious about our precious resource. So, in the last couple of years since I've been on the board, we've taken some of the most drastic steps that have ever been taken. Things that anger a whole lot of people, but hopefully people across the board, right? So things like capping swimming pool sizes above 600 square feet is something we did. Things like no longer allowing evaporative cooling, which is just wasting water. Things like mandating the turf removal, which is unpopular but very effective.
Turf meaning grass.
Taking out the grass and
replacing
it with desert landscaping.
Yeah.
Those are things.
Stopping golf courses.
That's right. Moratorium on golf courses. So there won't be any golf courses
their own
built.
water. Unless they provide.
If they're on a well, then they would have the ability to move forward.
And if one wants to see the future that we do not want, one only has to look south to Phoenix, right?
That's right. I think that's an absolutely a good point. We sort of know who's done this the right way and who has not.
I'm ignorant.
There's examples on both sides.
What happened in Phoenix?
Fairly large moratorium on all development in the entire valley. because of the lack of water.
And not just because of the lack of water, but because I would argue they failed to take some of the important, while painful, the important steps early enough. Right, so that's our hope, is that if we do these things in a responsible way, if we take these what are seemingly drastic steps now, it is all to avoid the ultimate drastic step, which would be stopping issuing permits to anybody in the future. That's not good for our economy. It's not good for people who've invested in this community here, and it's not good for people like me who want to see this valley continue to succeed.
Las Vegas has been the most, I guess, efficient with their water pretty much in the entire country, right?
Correct. So you used to see growing up, or at least I did, they used to talk about, turning off the water when you brush your teeth. And people always ask us, why don't you guys care? All you care about is the grass. Why don't you care about the turning off the water like they used to do those PSAs? And it's because we have done long before I was there, they did such an exceptional job with consumptive use, so reusing the indoor water, right? So nearly all of the water that goes down the drain is reused. We get the return tax flow credit for it, and it doesn't count against us.
Because we only have a certain percentage of the Colorado River, right?
Exactly, a tiny percentage. And so
it's 9%.
What we don't get back is the outdoor use. So that's why things like I mentioned, the evaporative cooling that just run water and the water just disappears. That's why we are so obsessed with sprinkling concrete, right? The sidewalks. People hate that there's the water police out there that get you if you have a drop on your concrete. And it's painful because it's really hard to avoid that. If you've ever tried to manage a sprinkler head, that's really hard to do. But that's where we're losing water. That's water that we never get back. It's gone to the atmosphere. You can never repurpose it. You never can get the return tax flow credits for it. So it's a really significant problem, all of the water that we use outdoors.
But isn't the real solution cutting a new deal for the Colorado River?
Cutting what?
A better deal for the Colorado River, or can that never happen?
Well, so just today we got a question at the board meeting, why haven't you guys negotiated with the other states in the compact? Well, that's a great idea. We certainly have. John Ensingmer at the Southern Nevada Water Authority, who also runs the Las Vegas Valley Water District, has worked tirelessly to get a better deal for the state. But you have to recognize, we're fighting against a whole other country, and we're fighting against other states that have a whole lot of also need it, and also have a pretty big sized stake in the game.
Well, the percentage for Las Vegas hasn't changed in 80 years.
100 years,
except we've changed.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
2.4 million people in the valley.
Right, exactly right. Although I did go to Mount Charleston on the weekend. Did you ever see Mount Charleston?
Yes.
It's closed.
I grew up here.
It's closed.
Well, it's not closed because of water. It's closed because of the hurricane.
Oh, I thought it was the rain.
The rain that came during the hurricane event in California, or the tropical storm. It was a significant event. The roads are essentially destroyed. Yeah. A lot of the underground utilities are gone. That's going to be a huge, long process to rebuild.
I went there to do a trail. We do a trail every few months out there, and it was literally shut down. They said the trail's gone. It got washed away, basically, which was... I didn't know that.
So we manage the water systems there and the roads, but it's been a huge challenge. And the county, I give them a lot of credit through the Office of Emergency Management, has worked really closely with the few businesses, but the residents up there to come up with a plan to rebuild.
And when you get that kind of rainfall, does that help, or is that just a flash in the pan?
It's a flash in the pan. I don't want to discount it. Everything helps.
Everything helps, but not really.
We need a whole lot of rain for a whole long time to make up our deficit.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Wow.
Well, switching gears, I guess for all the way up to the mountain to underground, how much do you have involvement with the boring tunnel and everything that's going on there?
Yeah, so we've approved all of this would be under our function of a city government. So the city of Las Vegas has approved the stops or the stations in their jurisdiction. They've approved the franchise agreement with the boring company, and we've done the same on our side of the jurisdiction. So we have a lot to do with it.
Okay. Do you like it?
I think it's I think it's yet to be seen whether it's a true mass transit solution or if it's, one piece of the puzzle. I think it's absolutely an important tool. I think it's certainly the way they're able to bore the tunnel is novel and efficient and cheap, and that's really good and really important. But it's not quite convinced me that it's mass transit. I think it's been very helpful at the LVCVA. It's been a good connector of those three buildings there, and I obviously want it to succeed. I want the county as a beneficiary of that through the franchise agreement, so they do well, we do well. But we have to also look at significant mass transit options for this community.
We're going to need them the
way
things keep growing. But even just to think through the boring tunnel, I mean, whether it's defined, I don't even know if there's a technical definition of what mass transit is. But a Tesla can't be mass transit because it only holds 4 people at a time plus luggage, which isn't mass. I mean, but it's still an expedited way to move people. And for me, we want to do one of them in downtown. We want to be the first downtown to have it, because I think convention business is the one piece of downtown that isn't yet where it should be. And if we can start getting that, you need the connectivity to the other big convention centers to get that convention business. And so I think it's a great idea in terms of connecting to Allegiant Stadium, the Sphere. Actually, I got to give Sphere credit. Getting in and out was particularly easy. Everyone kept saying parking's going to be a massive problem there. I didn't have a problem, but
good.
I do think that something like that for Allegiant Stadium, even the airport, if you can get from downtown to the convention center or the airport in 10 minutes without traffic, it's pretty great.
And I think the airport will be a huge part of the success of the Boring Company. And those are conversations that our team is engaged in right now. I think certainly you can you can point to the failure to connect the monorail with the airport as one of the big negative sort of historic events of why the monorail has had some of the challenges they have. But I think that's significant.
Do you share in the mayor's passion for changing the freeways between California and Vegas, and why she's so outspoken about it, but it's not her jurisdiction, right?
Well, it's not, but she obviously, through your business and so many others in the city, is a beneficiary of being able to move people from California into Southern Nevada. So I share her passion for wanting to move people efficiently. I think we have a slightly different approach. I think certainly she's been right to go after California to make sure that they're part of the equation. I've been a very big and very early supporter of high-speed rail to Southern California. I think this, particularly with Brightline West, which is an opportunity for us to connect those two jurisdictions with true mass transit, with true high-speed rail for the first time in the West, I think is a really exciting opportunity for us. And that's, again, without, while they have applied for a large federal grant, there's no local taxpayer dollars aside from that federal grant that would come, which is going to be awarded somewhere, so it ought to be awarded here in Las Vegas. I think that has the opportunity really to change this community for the better, and it does it in an environmentally friendly way, right? I think we ought to remove cars off the 15 probably for the sake of the climate, for the sake of the comfort, for the sake of moving people more safely to and from our two states. So that has been my approach.
But and I don't disagree with you in an ideal world. But one thing that's being from England, people love their cars in America. It's very hard to get people out of their cars. And so if you look at culturally in England, everyone goes to the pub after work and then they get on public transport. But public transport's so bad, it doesn't even exist here in many instances. People aren't giving up their cars that quickly. I mean, that's just the way. And I say to people that same concept of it would be great if you had better infrastructure for that, but I just think people love their cars. It's a cultural thing.
They do. It's associated with freedom. There's no greater sense of freedom than having a car and being able to go where and when you want to go. But I do think that is changing from generation to generation. I think you're seeing an older age of people getting their driver's license. It used to be, when I was in high school, I remember at the time it was 15 and 9 months you were able to get your first permit or your first license. You weren't allowed to drive your friends, but you were allowed to drive at 15 and 9 months. And I was there on that day at that minute waiting for it. Yeah. And you don't see that at the same rate anymore. And so I think there is a partially because of rideshare, you're seeing that there are alternatives. But I think the more alternatives we can provide, the better. That includes widening the 15, like Mayor Goodman has been such a good advocate for, and it includes high-speed rail. It includes continuing to go after new routes into Reed International Airport.
Yeah, and forgive the noise in the restaurant, but they're opening in a little bit.
That's kind of part of the charm.
It's part of the charm of this, exactly. But I agree with you on the high-speed rail. My only thing is it has to go into a destination people want to go. If it stops an hour and a half outside of California or outside of LA, what have you solved? Because you're still going to sit in traffic for 2-3 hours there. That's the only thing with the high speed that I've seen as a detractor from that.
And that's been part of the problem for so long, is a train to Victorville was considered a train to nowhere. Correct. And now that they've figured out how to extend the line and through Caltrans take it all the way, I think it's a whole different game.
And it's a different game. I totally agree with you. And lastly, on transportation and cars, what's your involvement in F1? What are you seeing?
Well, I actually literally just came from receiving a report from them. They're 6 weeks out right now. Still a lot of work to do, a whole lot of coordinating. They
6 weeks
reported
to the
out.
race.
That's what I'm told.
Yeah.
They reported out that they've been working intimately with 26 of our departments, which kind of just tells you what the impact is locally. I think it has no doubt been an extraordinary challenge. A challenge for local government, a challenge for law enforcement, first responders to figure out how to get this done. It's a big event with a big impact. And I think the economic impact is going to be significant too, and will be realized. But I think it will also be realized in the long term. Mm-hmm. The average Formula One race is like 26x the market share of a Super Bowl, to put that in perspective. And you think about people from, it's not a domestic event, it's an international audience, worldwide. And I believe that there are kids who will be watching a Formula One race on the Las Vegas Strip who 10 years from now will come here because they have that memory of watching that race. And I think the value of it will be seen over that long term.
It's great, a great point. And do you know, like these disturbances everyone's complaining about in terms of traffic and road closures, that won't have to happen every year.
The significant impact this year has been with the full concrete replacement. Yeah. That won't happen again for many races. We've approved up to 3 years of races. It won't happen in that time frame. It'll be a lot longer than that. There are some things that will have to be worked out, right? They have an 800-foot bridge that's taking you into the center of the circuit being constructed right now at Flamingo and Koval to take you on Flamingo over Koval. That's 3 lanes, 800 feet. That's a project, and that will have to be done every year because we have thousands of business licensees who are operating during the race in the center of the circuit. So you do have to be able to move people in and out.
It's insane. I mean, I tried to get from the airport via the Sphere to downtown, and I ended up in the Caesars employee parking lot, taking a shortcut through that.
Shortcut.
A shortcut through the employee parking lot.
It's tough, and it's been a burden on people who already have a hard, long day at work and then have to figure out how to navigate the roads home. So I feel for them, and that's why we've impressed upon Formula One that they need to do better. They need to communicate better, more effectively, and certainly if they're to come back again, there's pretty high expectations that they'll do things differently.
Yeah, and I just hope it does generate the visitation and demand that everyone's saying it's going to do, because that will be transformative for the city in an otherwise slower time.
And I think alongside that, we do have to be honest and realistic about the impact, right? There is a cost to the burden that's on taxpayers. When you have 26 department heads who are spending a whole lot of time on one thing, that's a distraction from doing other things. So we at the county have been doing some analysis on what the true cost is and making sure that we understand that and are being truthful about it as we account for hopefully what will be a successful event.
I'm looking forward to it.
We talked in about 2 episodes ago about reckless driving. We kind of touched on it.
Yes.
You said you wanted to kind of save that conversation for this episode. So.
Well, no, there's nothing to necessarily talk about. It's just something that I'm passionate about and met the commissioner through some of those efforts and ideas. And it's just something that I think that as a city should be more important. I think there was a video the other day on social media from one of our previous guests, Jacob in Vegas, showing people running red lights. And as a city, as we're growing and all these employees coming here to work every day, and more and more people on the roads, it's important, and tourists coming in, it's just important that things like reckless driving get a spotlight shined on it, and that is something through your body of work.
It is, and it's probably the issue that I've devoted more time than anything else on in the last 5 years, and it's because I really believe it's a quality of life issue. Not only is it a quality of life issue, it's an economic issue. First of all, you have to be able to live in a community where you are confident that your kids get to and from school safely, that you and your family are going to be able to get to work safely. And when you have more people dying on our roadways than you do to violent crime, you have to reassess your priorities a little bit, and that goes for everything from the way our roads are designed, engineered, and built, to the way our laws are enforced, the way law enforcement does their job, and the whole, following this conversation all the way through. And then if the fact that so many of our neighbors are getting either seriously injured or killed on our roadways isn't enough to tug at your heartstrings, you should look at the economic impact of this.
Yeah.
It is costing $3 billion to taxpayers. We had, to put it in perspective, more than 80 street poles taken down last year on our roadways. That's an enormous cost to residents in this valley because people are either being selfish, irresponsible, or they aren't put in a position to know better. So we have got to do better. I think we are doing better, but it's really a long spectrum from public works to where our roads are designed and engineered and built through the planning process, all the way through the tail end of this conversation with enforcement, Metro in the middle, to the responders. We manage the private ambulance contracts. We have the fire department. We have the Clark County Coroner's Office, and we own UMC Trauma. So this is something that really impacts taxpayers, and it really impacts everybody who drives around town and those who don't. If you're not protected by the tonnage of a car, you're even more vulnerable.
I've noticed in the 16 years I've lived here, but road rage, DUIs, speeding, and running red lights, those 4 things have just gotten progressively worse, and it's something I want to dedicate more time and effort onto being a part of trying to help the solution, because it needs it. The city definitely needs it. So you sit on all these boards that you mentioned, and we're conscious of your time, so we won't keep you too much longer. But are there any of these that are particularly close to your heart, or something that you're really focusing your time on?
I feel very fortunate to be able to be in a position where I'm on a lot of the boards that are close to my heart and do interest me so much for so many different reasons. The LVCVA is such an extraordinary organization here in this community that is really the driver of some of the big things that are happening right now, and that's been wonderful to get to be a part of, not just because the district I represent has the Strip and has Allegiant Stadium and is really at the forefront of this, but also because it is something that impacts everybody who lives here, whether or not you're directly involved in the gaming, tourism, hospitality industry. It's feeding you, and it's helping you, and it's lifting all of us up. So being able to be in a position where I get to help put heads in beds and bring people to this community and spend their money here, that's a really exciting thing. And then you look at it might not be as sexy, but it's certainly interesting, the audit committee, the committee responsible for literally looking after every penny that taxpayers are spending Clark County is really interesting to me. That's a committee that we get to bring departments that you might otherwise never even heard of, if not for getting to be on this panel and bring in people who run these departments and look at the way they're doing it and make sure that it's running efficiently and that there's nothing being wasted or nothing being done irresponsibly. So I love the audit committee, even though that doesn't get as much attention.
I'm smiling because I went to an unveiling of an underpass last week, where I was invited by the city to come and say a few words right here on Ogden. They put in new photos in an underpass, and one of our team members looked at me and said, "Did taxpayers pay for these photos in the underpass?" And that's why I'm laughing about it. But
public art is like one of the most controversial things. That's something I didn't fully appreciate until
I like
a couple
public
years
art,
ago.
but in an underpass with a lot of elements, I don't know that it's best
So
served.
to defend my friends at the city, I'm sure they will tell you that that's a technique used to reduce graffiti. No.
Fair enough.
Yeah, well, so the steakhouse is getting ready to open here in a few, so we'll start to wrap this up. But we always like to ask our guests, do you have any advice for young people that are maybe looking to get into public service?
Does that mean I'm old now?
No.
You're not. You are pretty young, actually. Aren't you one of the youngest commissioners?
When I got there, I was the youngest, but
Really?
Commissioner McCurdy has since been elected, and he beats me now.
Well, before you answer that question, I got another question. What do you see for yourself after you get out of being the Clark County Commissioner?
Well, I want to continue to give back to this community
Okay.
that has really helped me so much and my family. But what I would say to anybody who's growing up here or wants to be here is just to get involved. I went to UNLV, and UNLV is a perfect example of this. It's a kind of school where you can join a fraternity, get involved in athletics, you can do beyond the newspaper, you can do all these things, but you have to proactively do it. And if you don't, it's not just going to come to you and slap you in the face. You really have to make the most of every moment there and your opportunity there. And I always tell the story, and I'll just end with this. On the first day of school, there was an event happening across the street. It used to be a bar called Moose's, and I wasn't going to go, and a friend of mine invited me, and I decided to make the trek across Maryland Parkway to Moose's for this event. And at that event, I met the person who I ended up marrying, and the person who I ended up spending 13 years working for, and who's responsible largely for the work I get to do now. So, you think about that. Had I not gone that night to Moose's, man, my life would be so different.
It's amazing that, yep. And that's, I always tell people, take every opportunity. You never know. Like,
Exactly.
if I hadn't moved to Vegas, I would have met my wife here, and so on and so on and so on and so on. But might you be the next governor?
I want to try and keep this job. I have the best job on the
You got
planet.
8 more years of this,
I
for
get
sure.
to, well, nothing's for sure.
No, as in potentially you have to run again.
That's right.
When is the next election?
I am running. I'll be up on the ballot in 2024.
Oh, wow.
Primaries in June, the general elections in November. I'm running, and I'm going to hopefully work hard to earn people's vote.
Oh, well, good for you, man. And thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today.
Thank you for what you do, and thank you for amplifying so much that's happening in this community.
Trying to.
Stay up to date with Michael on his website at michaelnaft.com or clarkcountynv.gov, and then as well as your Twitter, you seem pretty active at Michael Naft. So reach out, and thank you so much for joining us today on the corner of Main Street.
Thank you for having me.
Are you a fan of On the Corner of Main Street? You're listening, so we'll assume that's a yes. So share the love, rate, review, and tell a friend to subscribe. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PlazaPod, on Facebook, Plaza Podcast, and feel free to write to the man himself at Jonathan Jossel. We'll see you next time, right here on the corner of Main Street.